Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, family, friends, acquaintances, coworkers. Um, I was put on the spot this morning, or was let know that I would be warming everybody up. So I apologize if this is a little choppy. Thank you for coming to celebrate the life of Gardner Combs. Many of you knew him from Donner Lake, some of you from beyond. Incredibly special person, not only to the family that sit next to me, but the friends and neighbors that are gathered here. I'll be reading a short poem in honor of Gardner. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints of snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Next, my cousin Julia will be reading a prayer.
I am resurrection, and I am life, says the Lord. Whoever has faith in me shall have life, even though he die. And everyone who has life, and has committed himself to me in faith, shall not die forever. Let us pray. O God of grace and glory, we remember before you this day our brother Gardner. We thank you for giving him to us, his family and friends, to know and to love as a companion on our earthly pilgrimage. In your boundless compassion, console us who mourn. Give us faith to see in death the gate of eternal life, so that in quiet confidence we may continue our course on earth until, by your call, we are reunited with those who have gone before, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Well, this is a tough act to follow. Gardner is always a tough act to follow. I'm not one of Gardner's earliest friends, but he quickly became my best friend. And here are a few of the memories that I have of him as a person and as a remarkable individual. He was disciplined and skilled in everything he did, whether it involved high-stakes commercial property in San Francisco or coping with the town of Truckee regarding the LPOA. He was articulate, civil, modest, and he was never shrill towards those with whom he disagreed. He would not allow himself to descend to the low level of cheap discourse and petty anger that others sometimes seem so eager to embrace these days. In his demeanor and treatment of others, he was truly a person of the age of enlightenment and reason. He was a gracious host and guest, and many of you can join Kathy and me and relate to the enjoyment of a dinner with conversations with him. He took the time and interest in small touches to his dinners, such as setting a proper table, even right out here. Whether in formal or informal settings, Gardner was the same person. He lived his life in a simple manner, but always with a deep appreciation of how good his life was. He was devoted and very much in love with his wife, Margot, who he lost about a year ago. He was infinitely proud of his family, as certainly he should be, especially after Craig's wonderful presentation yesterday. And of course, he loved his new granddaughter, and of course, he loved going hunting with his dog. Gardner was always generous with his time for matters big and small. Many of you can confirm his generosity. When our daughter and her husband began house hunting in the East Bay, he offered immediately to go with them and provide his perspective of the various houses that they wanted to see. This past Thanksgiving, my wife Kathy and I went to upstate New York, Albany, to visit family and spend Thanksgiving. Being the relative that stays way too long, I fell and broke my hip and was there until January. During that time, Gardner called several times to find out how I was and to tell me to keep doing my exercises and rehabilitation and I would be okay. He never let on how seriously ill he must have been by that time, which was just in January. He devoted many hours of ensuring that the association, DLPOA, was a responsible steward of its beach and of Donner Lake itself. He ran interference with many government agencies to protect the beach, knowledge that he brought from his extensive experience with real estate and development. But never overstepping, he always patiently explained positions and understood how to proceed. He was well educated and always unfailingly polite. He was a fountain of knowledge on many subjects, including American history, which is an interest that my wife and I shared with him. In discussions, Gardner might offer a historic anecdote about an event or a person of significant American history. Words came easily to Gardner. He was not chatty, but when he spoke, it was with a clarity and understanding that was undiminished by the you knows and uh-huhs that some of us fall victim to while speaking. Nor did he rush to make a point by talking over other people. He patiently listened, kept going what he was doing, and then would proceed with his position on an issue. When I last spoke to Gardner through a Zoom presentation arranged by Craig and the rest of the family, I told him I thought he was one of the most courageous people I'd ever met in my entire life. And he was. I told him that by his lessons and by his courage, he was teaching all of us a profound message, or giving all of us a profound message of how to proceed and how to see our own life. And I ended by telling him that I would miss him. And I surely do. Rest in peace, Gardner.
Well, it's sort of hard to follow anything so eloquent. So my name is James, and I'm Gardner's first cousin. Gardner was about 11 years older than me. So when I was younger, he was just one of those older people, that had nothing in common with us kids. And so I wasn't really close to him growing up. I would see him at Christmas dinners or something, but it's not like we really talked much because he was 11 years older, so we really had nothing in common. But then as an adult, both our parents died at approximately the same time, give or take 2 years. And then somehow or another, I'm not even sure how it happened, Gardner started inviting me over for Sunday dinner. And so for maybe 14 years, every Sunday, except for when he was here at Donner during parts of the summer and during the ski season, but all the other Sundays, I would have dinner with him and Margot, and often other guests. And so those dinners were great because I learned a lot, like you just pointed out. I learned a lot about conversation. I learned an awful lot about French wines and French cheeses. So it was a learning lesson, and I learned a lot about just a little bit about being a good person from these dinners. But we spent more and more time as time went by. So we would take our dogs on walks every weekend, even if it was raining. We would cajole each other that we should go out, even if we had to use an umbrella. And we'd have long conversations about family history or history in general or architecture as we were walking through the neighborhoods. And we just became close, and he became what I think was my best friend. For years, I had a weekly gig in the South Bay where I'd have to be in the operating room for 10 hours at a time or in lead, so they were long days. But magically, when I was pulling out of the parking lot and still had my hour-and-a-half drive back to Berkeley, he would call me up. And we didn't have a long conversation, but he would call me up and just check on me. Then, about 5 years ago, I got cancer. And that's not a fun thing to get. But for months, he would show up at my house every morning, drive me to the hospital. I'd get my chemotherapy and radiation and all that stuff. And then when I'd walk out, there he was. And he did that for months. So I never asked him to do that. So he just did lots of little things in a very selfless manner. And so I could go on with lots of examples, but all of you guys have tons of examples of little things he did. So I'm internally grateful for the time I spent with him. So every time we'd have a conversation on the phone, he always ended it the same way. So I should end it the same way as well. He would end the conversation with me on the phone and just say, well, onward and upward. So, onward and upward, Gardner.
Okay, I'm the emotional one of the family. Just so you know that ahead. This has been very difficult for me. So just bear with me, okay? Getting to know Gardner for me was not easy. when I first knew Gardner, it was the Berkeley Gardner, the professional Gardner, the one I could not relate to at all. He was so articulate. He was so in control of everything. It's like, don't put me in a room with him because he intimidates me and I have no idea what to talk to him about because he's like way up here and I'm like way down here. I mean, I'm a school teacher. You know, he was a professional person that was beyond my knowledge, and no matter what conversation we would come up with, I'm going like, okay, we're driving down the road and we're looking at, the middle of California, and they grow onions and this and that. And I happen to see something about, kind of the missions. And then I get this whole history lesson about every mission that was along in California. I'm going, okay, thank you very much. Too much information. But that's just the way he was. So I'm thinking, okay, being a home ec teacher, I know food. Okay, let's talk about food. Oh my gosh, he was saying food ingredients I've never even heard of. I mean, he was such the professional chef. I'm going, okay, I need to go back to school because I have no idea what he's even talking about. But he was so good at every single thing that he did. The turning point came when I met the Gardner of Donner Lake. He was so relaxed. He was so kind, so gentle. He loved this community. He would do anything for this community. First time I had dinner with him and Margot, my sister, if you didn't know, salad at the end of dinner. I mean, seriously, salads at the beginning of dinner. And I'm going, okay, why are we having salad at the end? This is very uncomfortable for me. So instead of asking, I'm going to look it up. Thank God for Google. Okay, and this is kind of what I thought. It's an Italian and a French kind of thing. And I'm going, okay, that puts him way up here and I'm back down here again. And it refreshes your palate. That sounds like Gardner. It's considered a side dish in Italy. Okay, I'm thinking it as a first course, in America. It's to finish the meal. I'm going, no. Salad's at the beginning of the meal. Oh, no. Not in the Combs family. It's at the end of the meal. I'm going, oh my. Okay, that's not going to happen. And then in Italian, it's the formal end of the dinner. I'm going, okay, whatever. But, that's just Gardner. I mean, he had it all together. When my sister started kind of declining, Gardner and I decided we need to keep in touch a little bit more. So my husband Bill and I, we go on all these trips, and Gardner texted me one time. He said, "Car 54, where are you?" And I'm going, oh, thank you. So anytime Bill and I went away, Car 54 had to keep in touch with Gardner, just in case we need to keep in touch with my sister. And he just made life so easy. I have never seen a more patient man that would put up with my sister and all that she was going through, and he loved her so deeply. In March, when I was out there, I started going through some more stuff. The little love notes that I found in my sister's things that Gardner gave to her was amazing. He just loved her so deeply. And I was just in awe. Oh, we had a little argument. Oh, but sweetheart, we'll get through this. I love you, and I was just going, that is a man that is dedicated to her and dedicated to her family, or to his family, sorry. So I started doing one of those acrostic poems of Gardner's name. G, he was he was gracious, he was eloquent, he was tasteful. A, he was ambitious. He accepted us as we are. Not what he thought we should be, but he accepted me. He accepted all of you, just as to who you are. He was very resourceful, and he was rooted in tradition, which I see that in his family. He was determined. It was going to be his way. Okay. How many of you really expect to determine how you are going to die? Any of you? Probably not. Gardner's there in the hospital. His mind was still totally intact. Okay, Donna, you're going to be in charge of flag raising. I said, no, I am not. That goes to the son. I'll do the food, I'll do the coffee, but nothing else, And he was saying that 1 or 2 days before he passed. He goes, this is what I want. Okay, whoops, lost this. Okay. When I get home and die, I want catering. I want sandwiches. I want my people around me. I'm going, that is so Gardner. He is so concerned about taking care of all of you. And I'm going, oh my gosh. When I come home to the house, I want this, 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 and this. I was going, who does that? Gardner does that. That is who Gardner is. He is determined. He's going to have it his way. It's going to be detailed, and he's going to make sure that everything is okay. He was dedicated to my sister, who can put up with Margot for years going through what she did. I barely could make it a week. And Gardner, it's okay. Calm down. Everything's fine. He was so amazing. Like Taylor said to me, just coming over, he was the rock. He is the rock of the family. He was, and for nurturing, he was so nurturing. He was neighborly to all of you. He saw you. He loved you. He incorporated you into his life. And enduring for E and R, he was very respectful. He didn't care who you were. He was respectful. He was reliable, like James said. He was reliable there to show up, to be there, to be with you. I don't think I've ever met a more intelligent man that could talk about anything. Several years ago, he said, Donna, you and Bill take the loneliest highway, 50, back to Arkansas, or actually it ends in Colorado. But I'm going, okay. And then he talks about the railroad in Eli, or however you pronounce it in your terms, but to me it's Eli. And he says, take the train. So we took the train. And on the way here, I had to do that again. I had to come back. here on the road that he had told us so much about. I had to do it for him because he was an amazing person. That's all I can say. And he has finished the race. He did it his way, and God respected that, and God brought him home. And that's where I like to think that Gardner is now. He's home with the Lord, and he was happy with what he was able to do. And that in alone is so respectful. And he has touched every one of your lives. And he will always be in your life, in your heart, in your memories. And you have all learned something from him. And that's what's most important, is to be a legacy to our families and to our loved ones. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Well, you can probably tell from the hairline that I'm a Combs.
What?
No.
I'm a Combs.
And your turn will come. And Gardner would often say, you need to put on a hat. So I'm going to put on a hat.
All right.
I have a few remarks to make, but first I want to thank members of my family. Gardner's last few weeks were not easy at all, and they were made easier by the presence of his sons, Alex and Craig, Taylor, Aaron, and by his cousins, James, who we heard from, as well as the Spar family, Jimmy and Camille, and also several friends who came to visit from time to time, and of course, Bill and Donna. And I wanted to echo what she said. He loved this place. He said to me he was so sorry he wouldn't get back here. And I know he would be gratified to see so many of you here today. It's appropriate that we're at a lake, for where there was a lake, there could be a boat. And with Gardner, there were always boats around our house. He learned to sail on a lake in the Sierras with the Boy Scouts quite a long time ago. And he was quick to apply that knowledge at sea level. He borrowed a small sailboat that a friend had built out of plywood as a shop project. The boat had never been in the water. And by small, I mean really small, just under 8 feet in length. And it was designed to be sailed single-handed. So what would you all do in a situation like that? Well, naturally, you'd take the vessel out for its first sea trial on Oakland's Lake Merritt with your 5-year-old brother serving as auxiliary ballast. Thus, having enjoyed its one and only outing, that boat then lived suspended from the top of our garage for many years. Boats and other unusual methods of transport were often appearing and disappearing from garages in our neighborhood due to Gardner's hospitable nature. One day, my mother returned home to find that her yellow Ford convertible, her pride and joy, which she didn't allow out in the rain, had been displaced by a 1921 Oldsmobile. And some years later, my aunt, James's mother, learned that Gardner had commandeered her garage to store his catamaran. That boat, Hobie Cat 16 was the vessel in which I enjoyed my next, and indeed my last, sailing adventure with my brother. Hobie Cats were brand new back then. This is a long time ago. And he'd brought his to Lake Tahoe, hoping to take advantage of the winds coming off Mount Talac as they crossed the waters to South Shore. Having rigged the cat, a somewhat complex process involving a trapeze device that I would encounter later, we awaited the breezing up due that mid-afternoon. When the wind had reached what my brother thought was a sufficient number on the Beaufort scale, something just below gale force, as I recall, we set out from the beach and were making good time at flank speed, heading due west by southwest, really, into the middle of that glacial lake. Gardner on the helm, and yours truly serving, as usual, as crew, or once again, ballast, really. As the cabins on the shoreline began to recede and became very small in the distance, crew wondered just how far the helmsman might take us. Suddenly, Gardner, sensing crew's worry, decided it was time to head back to shore, and we came about with a violent jerk and reversed course. Heading back to home port, we were tracking dead downwind and must have been quite a sight, as a crowd had gathered on the beach watching us, and we learned later, making odds on our survival. The helm called for the crew to strap into the trapeze and hike out to provide stability. I was quite a bit lighter then, and sadly unable to provide the counterweight required. As we gained speed, we began to heel until we were up on one pontoon only, and I was stretched out at what felt like a 45-degree angle to the water. It was just about at that moment that what should have been the cover photo of Sports Illustrated for that week turned into a candidate instead for ESPN Top 10 Failures. A motorboat passed aft of us at speed, causing a wake. Gardner tried desperately to turn our craft away from the oncoming wave. And in doing so, the Hobie yawed violently, thus launching me as if from a medieval catapult over the top of the mast and headed first into the lake about 10 yards to starboard. Gardner sailed back to retrieve crew and noted as he hauled me back aboard, "It's a good thing I put the quick release on your harness, don't you think?" I agreed that was a very good thing. He then looked at me dripping and shivering and said, "Perhaps that's enough sailing for the first day." As I said, that was the last time Gardner asked me out on the water, but it was far from his last invitation. And as we've already heard, one trait he inherited from our father, besides the issue of salad at the end, was a sense of occasion. And he always wanted to get people involved. One of my earliest memories is from my 4th birthday, when our dining room was graced by a huge banner of butcher paper stretching the length of the wall with the greeting, "Happy Birthday, Gifford," in 1-foot-high letters. Gardner was keen to mark the moment, but he couldn't come home, and so he'd sent it to me from boarding school. And only later did we see photos of the banner's production, with Gardner standing at one end of a hallway, carefully directing his Robert Louis Stevenson School dorm mates on their hands and knees who were painting the letters in blue poster ink. Obviously, he was a keen student of Mark Twain even back then, and had truly absorbed the lesson of Tom Sawyer and the fence. He loved a party and gathering friends and family around the table. One unseasonably warm Thanksgiving, as I was on my way back to from the airport to Berkeley, I received a call from Gardner, rather excited, saying, "Can you pick up some limes on your way here?" "How many?" I said. 3 or 4? "Well, no, actually, I need about 44. Huh, I thought to myself. It is hot today, but that's quite a lot of beverage. And my mother doesn't even like gin. I procured the fruit as instructed and arrived envisioning a house full of thirsty relatives, only to discover 2 barbecues on full flame, cooking a pair of butterflied turkeys. Gardner moving between the 2, alternately cutting and squeezing green spheres with the grace of Fred Astaire. Indeed, my favorite image of him is standing in the kitchen in a bright red apron, with a chef's knife in hand, about to attack some marvelous dish right out of the oven. He was a consummate host and an excellent chef, and was constantly trying new recipes, as evidenced by the stack of cookbooks here. Julia Child and her staff would have been hard-pressed to keep up. My brother would be thrilled that you've all come together on this beautiful day. I'm only sorry that he, who some of you knew as the man who cooks the pigs, could not join us. Gardner, I miss our late night conversations and our reminiscences about Mom and the Chief. I'd so like one more sail with you. Fair winds, G-Breeze.
Good afternoon. I don't know that Roberts was the toughest one to follow. My name is Craig. I'm Gardner's youngest, and I'm really looking forward to a 4th of July without a memorial following it. So I'll start now. I sat in front of a blank page for quite some time, wondering how to begin writing about my father. What can a son possibly condense into 5 minutes about a man who raised him? How do you measure a lifetime of care, selflessness, quiet strength, inspiration, and countless lessons? All the things that make up a father's love. I thought about the opportunities he gave me, the wisdom he shared, and examples he set. And still I struggle to find the words. So I'll begin with the simple truth, as it is to me. My father was, in every sense of the word, my hero. Now I know that today, the word hero is often reserved for those who move mountains and save worlds, especially Hollywood's current obsession with capes and superpowers. But Gardner was something different. Despite what I believed as a boy, he didn't have super strength, and he couldn't leap tall buildings in a single bound. Although during my teenage years, I definitely had my suspicions about his enhanced hearing and uncanny ability to appear just as I was about to do something really dumb. But as I grew older, and maybe a touch wiser, I came to understand my father's true superpower: showing up when someone needed him. Not in grand cinematic ways, but in quiet, everyday moments that truly matter. He wasn't saving cities or defeating villains, but was delivering the missing ingredients for a neighborhood dinner party. He was hauling a truckload of junk to the dump for someone who couldn't. He was the first to offer help and the last to seek thanks. With all this in mind, I want to share my favorite part of my father's superhero persona: the outfit. Now, capes have been worn throughout history by warriors, royalty, and of course, comic book superheroes. Gardner had one too, and for those of you who knew him best, you already know what I'm talking about. I have that. His cape wasn't draped over his shoulders. It was tied around his waist. his apron. At first glance, excuse me. His apron at first glance, it might have seemed like nothing more than kitchen armor. But anyone who spent time with him knew that apron gave him superpowers. Whether it was helping someone with a recipe, getting involved with the DOPOA, closing First Street for a block party, John English remembers that, or somehow hauling a 35-foot flagpole up Donner Summit on the top of his Grand Cherokee. He was always up to the challenge, and more often than not, he was wearing his apron. One memory in particular to me stands out. I was working at the beach, emptying trash cans and cleaning bathrooms like a model employee. And I'd hear his usual, "Hey, sport," from somewhere behind me. I'd turn around and there he was, standing on the sand, cocktail in hand, wearing that same red Williams-Sonoma apron frayed around the edges. I remember thinking, why in the world is this man wearing an apron to the beach?
Embarrassed totally.
But once the confusion wore off, it always made me smile, because regardless of what I was doing, it meant that he took time out of his vacation to come see me at work, just to say hi. It's something about this place, this community here at Donner Lake, only seemed to magnify his superpowers. Gardner came alive here. He gave more, laughed more, and shared more. Whether you were family, a lifelong friend, or someone meeting him for the first time, he made you feel like you belonged. It was here that his generosity flourished, not in speeches or in grand gestures, but in action. He showed up with a plate, a helping hand, a story, and a smile. His apron wasn't just a kitchen tool. It was a symbol of who he was, a man who believed in service, in showing love through effort, and in always making space for others. Even in his final days, the spirit of giving didn't fade. When he was in the hospital at Kaiser, our family friend Sue Atkerson came to visit. As they chatted about life, family, and community, they found themselves talking about Sue's annual barbecue, an event that meant so much to both of them. And in classic Gardner fashion, he didn't gloss over the conversation, as anyone in his position could. Despite everything, he leaned in. He talked in detail about the temperature of the meat and how it should be cooked, the prep process, and even the exact ingredients for the rub. It was one of his final acts of generosity, making sure that someone else had what they needed, still showing up. Sorry. So no, my father didn't wear a cape in the traditional sense, but in every way that mattered, he was heroic. In his kindness, in his steadiness, in his commitment to the people and the places he loved. Before I finish, I have to thank my dad. He was the one who put me on skis and showed me the joy of ski racing. That simple gift shaped my whole life. It led me to a career, to the love of my life, and eventually to our daughter. All of it started with him
and I'm eternally grateful. Thank you, Dad.
I'm Alex, the eldest of Gardner's children, and most of you knew him as Gardner, but like some lucky few, I knew him as Dad. Larger than life in my youth, his beard present throughout, save for a few run-ins with a mustache, framing his warm smile and bright eyes. His compassionate, caring heart, never faltering in his love and support in teaching and molding me, my siblings. I just want to share some kind of indelible memories I have of what a wonderful and amazing man he was and what it was to be his son. Early morning rides to school, pretending it is a jet fighter powering up and clearing for takeoff. The smell of his cologne, the hot coffee, and the leather in the car, KCBS News on the radio. Teaching me to fly fish, casting in the backyard, and tying flies, all in the hope of the, as he always put it, the elusive breakfast brook trout. Catching crawdads by the bucketful, probably in an effort to have me do something else at the beach than bug him, paying a nickel per crawdad, and then creating a huge feast out of the 5-gallon bucket that we returned with. As Gifford experienced, but I was a little braver, possibly, sailing the Hobie, going so fast that the rudders hum harmoniously with the speed. The water at Tahoe, if you've experienced it, changes from that totally transparent, you can see everything. But then as you go out, going from turquoise to deep blue, and then finally the purple, as we reach the center of the lake. The thrill of hiking out, being on one pontoon, wind and water spray in your face, the butterflies in fear if the boat goes over, his hand pulling me from under the sail, the pride of riding the boat again, helms a lee, we're away on the wind again. My first driving lesson in Tahoe Meadows, the red 64 Ford Falcon V8 Sprint. The perfect balance of power for me to immediately bury the rear end in the sandy road near the cabin. Learning to walk back and get a shovel, learning to dig out the Falcon. Quiet evenings with a roast chicken dinner, grill set to mom, medium off medium. The best chicken ever, even if as a youth I had to drink milk with dinner. He was right though, I do have strong bones, mostly. His gregarious ways with friends and family, learning to tell a great tale from him, regaling and enthralling all. Memories of the 50th anniversary of the Golden Gate, all of us grouped in a throng, the bridge swaying as we crept along, he guiding us through all the mass of people. Air shows and the thunderous roar of the Blue Angels, seeing the SR-71 as we drive to Tahoe, taking off from Travis. Watching a B-17 pounding away overhead as he explained the rotary engine. Trips to the symphony on cold nights for the Nutcracker. My sister and I huddled in the back of the Black Beauty, this 2-seater with a space that you can put children in. Long drives up to Tahoe and the wonder of coming around the corner at 50 and seeing the lake spread out before us in the summer ahead. In the latter half of my life, adulthood set in, as happens to the lucky. Discussions of engineering, architecture, history, the newest novel, the most recent revisit of Mark Twain, and the joys of Inspector Morse. Recipes relayed, vehicle repair struggles and solutions, trains and my great-grandfather, and my last adventure with him to see the big boy here in Truckee last summer. The person I am is shaped by the one of the funniest, deeply caring, wholly loving souls that our world was lucky enough to have during our journeys. The greetings he always gave to me, "Hey big guy, how's it going?" The platitude, but somehow helpful, this too shall pass. The sign off, onward and upward. Love you, big guy. He is known as Wilson Gardner Combs. I am his son. I know him as Dad. And now I'd like to read a passage. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as and moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out of our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Thank you all so much for coming. I know Gardner could not be more happy to have all of you here, and I thank everybody. And we've put a book plate in the cookbooks that he has, and if you guys would like to take one in his memory, I think that would be a real honor for him. And thank you all. Sorry. We could adjourn. We have food across the street at Sue's, and drink. And feel free at your leisure if you'd like to take a book in his memory. And thank you all so much. I know it would honor him and does honor him greatly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Big brother. Thank you. All of you did great.
It's okay. Thank you so much for your work.
Wonderful words.
Thank you. Great to see you guys. Sorry we couldn't make it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's been a long 16 months, I'd have to say. So, yeah, next year. Looking forward to not having to do, as Craig noted,
Yeah,
any of
another
this. Yeah.